This is the Show Me How podcast, and I'm John Skuris, your host or
and
co-host.
I'm Stephanie Weber.
And this is our wonderful guest, Dean Stanley, Stephanie's brother. And we're here to talk to you today about contractors and do-it-yourself selections and working on rehab projects and getting them done right and picking the right partner, right? This is going to be a fun episode.
It is. It will be interesting.
It's always interesting.
So tell us a little bit about your brother.
Why don't we let my brother tell himself about himself?
Okay.
He likes
Let's
himself.
hear it. So Dean's been in contracting for what? 40 years?
40 years.
Yeah, Dean and I grew up in Lincoln Park together. Obviously, you know about us. Stephanie and I grew up together. I started out working with Dean in rehab projects when we were what? I was 16.
Yeah, we were still in school.
Yeah.
That was what I did for summer work to pay for school.
Right.
And then after I got my first real job, that lasted 9 months, and then I went and started working on my own and never looked back.
Yeah, so many years. What's it now? 40 years almost.
Yeah,
right?
40 years.
And in that time, you've been a developer, you've been a contractor. You worked at a firm, engineering firm, for a little while, didn't you?
Yeah, I worked for a couple of places, but that was like for a designated time. I wasn't staying for.
And you were almost a project manager at one point, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's what I did for both of those. I was a project manager, but it was like when I was down in Florida, I came back here. That one summer, the guy hired me because he was desperate and he knew me, and he said, "I need someone to get this project and get it organized," and I did.
There you go.
So, and what was the building you built over on Belle Plaine? It was what, 8 units?
Yeah, that was 6. And then the one on Melrose was that 9-story low-rise
that's right.
building. So that was 30 units, and that was a $9 million budget.
Yeah. So. And since Dean got tired of Chicago winter and moved himself down to Delray Beach, which is a place I love, we have a good time down there. And now you have a whole other sorted situations and challenges with the marketplace, which he's going to tell us about today. And basically we're going to cover, how $1 million project turned into a $2.5 million nightmare and some of the fun along with that. If your contractor shows up wearing flip-flops, you might want to consider working with somebody wearing hard boots. And DIY going wrong. So you're going to figure out, when can I work with a good contractor? What are indicators that somebody's going to be a good contractor? And what's an idea of somebody being a terrible contractor?
Right, and knowing the difference between do-it-yourself and when to work with a contractor.
Yes, when to hand it over to a contractor.
What's limitations? Everybody has different limitations.
That's right.
Right.
So, you've been doing this 40 years. You're going to have some good stories, I think. So, so let's talk a little bit about getting into our first segment. Should we DIY or hire out? So give us some stories, Dean. What have you run into in the marketplace and what challenges?
Well, you always have the person who thinks they're, was that the old saying, your eyes are bigger than your stomach?
Yeah.
And that happens a lot with rehabbing.
I've done it.
And especially when you're more to rehabbing than new construction, because you don't know what you're getting into half the time when you open up that wall. And a lot of problems, like the one where I took on the house that a guy had started it. He inherited the house, gutted it, and was going to do all this work. Then he took out a center bearing wall, and the middle of the house collapsed. And then he decided, okay, I think I overdid this. Him and his buddies are going to redo this place. And when he had the
police officer by night, or by day,
and
DIY tragedy by night,
right.
Yeah, and when the thing sunk about 9 inches in the middle all the way through the whole 2 floors,
that'll freak you out.
He realized he had, done some serious thing wrong. And, it's all fixable. I mean, we jacked it back up and put it all back, and I made it better than it was. But if you don't know what you're doing, especially when you get to structural stuff, it can get really dangerous and really expensive.
Yeah. So, we put together a list for everyone, by the way, of kind of some tips and direction from Dean on what would be a good focus. But we're basically talking about, paint, caulk, fixtures, you're probably safe.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you can do the around the house stuff, and I mean, and then YouTube stuff that's available to show you how to do the simple stuff, which you may think is overwhelming, actually is not that overwhelming if you follow it. But again, let's not say we're electricians and then we're going to rewire the light switches and all of a sudden you burn your house down.
Yeah.
Simple fans. People, there's some people that can put a simple hang a fan. It's not that big a deal. Providing you understand, the basics, principles of electricity, it's not that complicated.
Yeah.
But if you have any, second guessing, don't do it. It's not worth it because one, you can either get shocked and could be hurt drastically, or you do some serious
Fly
damage
off
to
a
your
ladder.
Yeah, and serious damage to your house, and then you got to pay to have it fixed properly.
Yeah. I have a pro tip on the fan replacement. So, you could do a fan, right? But usually, you have a fan already in place. I have a bed underneath it, and I start trying to do this work standing on the bed. Don't do that.
No.
Move the bed out of the way
And get
put a ladder.
Oh my
Because
God.
when you're like balancing around,
And
ladders,
you're like
Definitely
fumbling.
not.
ladder's much more stable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
make sure you
so
have
don't do
all
that.
the proper equipment when you're doing these DIY
there's
things.
lists.
And also that's the other thing. If you're going to do this stuff, have some proper tools.
Yes.
I can't tell you how many people like, oh yeah, I'll be helping them at their house, and they're like, well, because everybody knows I can do these things. Oh, can you help me with this? And I don't carry tools everywhere, and I'll be like, well, what do you? I mean, you have this, and this tool, and they'll show me these rusty tools.
Yeah, there's like one Phillips head,
one
a hammer,
screwdriver,
and a wrench.
a crappy hammer, and a
Or something they got
3/4
off
inch
at
wrench.
Amazon. A dual kit off at Amazon.
Amazon's fine, just as long as they have all the tools.
Right.
So don't take on what you can't do with the tools
you're
you
not
have.
prepared to,
Don't be
yeah.
afraid to go to Home Depot and buy
Yeah.
some decent tools.
What's our favorite thing though, Dean? When we're out sailing and then something breaks and somebody breaks open.
Yeah,
You're out in the middle of the lake or the ocean, and you have a 1/4 of a toolkit.
John brings this up because I also do boat work. I'm
He's
a captain.
a certified captain and
So-
pilot.
So we took a boat to the Bahamas when he was visiting recently, and the boat was a catastrophe. And
Leaking
it was
shafts.
leaking and everything. And anyway,
Thruster
but it
leaks.
was again. It goes to I brought tools just in case.
Oh my God!
And
Thank God we had tools. That's
was-
because when it's hitting the fan, if you think hitting the fan is your ceiling dropping 9 inches, try water coming up underneath.
Try being over 2,000 feet of water.
And you're about 12 miles from land, or
Right.
We were 22
30.
miles.
Yeah.
Now, was this boat checked before you left?
This boat had just spent 9 months in the shop.
Yeah.
Oh, so
It was supposed
it's
to be
very
ready to go.
Similar
Yeah, they were supposed
to when
to
we're
be.
doing like a DIY project or any kind of renovation. Someone
this-
was supposed to check this out.
We were the
Well,
ones
it was-
semi-checking it.
Yeah, I had taken it out a few weeks earlier as a shakedown, and I gave them the list of things that still weren't working, and of course they fixed some of them, then broke more.
Yeah, it was
and then
unbelievable. The sump pump
the sump
switch
pumps. I don't know
was
how
a
they
favorite.
ended up not working, but
Well, they
well,
obviously
we're
clipped it.
digressing. But the point being, have a good set of tools. That's just
Yeah.
get some decent tools.
And, stay away from things that are more complicated, like the
Right.
plumbing, electrical, structural work. Obviously go to a licensed pro. And then, swapping toilet seats, recaulking tubs, painting interior walls, installing ceiling fans, hanging drywall, and doing patching. All that stuff's simple.
Right.
Stay away from water heaters, electrical panels, foundation roofing work. I mean, like you said, the electrical work isn't that difficult, but if you do it wrong, drastic
Yeah,
consequences.
because if you do it wrong, what you will destroy will cost you 10, 15
100
times
times.
what
Well,
you,
or burn down your entire house.
or burn down the entire
and
house.
hurt somebody.
It's just
Right. And then it will not be covered under insurance because you
you
did the
it.
work.
Yeah, you cause your own problems.
You caused your own problems.
Also, in some of these situations, you can lose a loan, right? So if
Right.
you aren't, like a VA loan, for instance, there's specific requirements. You have to have a licensed contractor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't, you start, and you could DIY stuff, but I'm sure they have a list, right? of
They
stuff
have
that you
some
probably do.
parameters in what you can do, and that's with a lot of a lot of the specialty loans, they have parameters in who can do what on the place.
Right.
I don't think there's any parameters on a regular conventional loan, but it's to your best interest to do things right in the first
Right.
place. I've been saying this for years. It's like, do things right, sleep at night. And as a contractor,
I like that.
That's
as
good.
a contractor, that's,
Can we attribute that to
that's-
Dean Stanley?
yeah. I mean,
And rebuilding? Yeah, your company, by the way, we didn't talk about it. It's rebuilding?
yeah. Still
Just
rebuilding.
rebuilding LLC?
Yeah, rebuilding LLC,
Based
construction
out of
and development.
Delray Beach?
Yeah, we're out of Delray. I gave up the license here in Illinois. I still have one in Wisconsin too, though. So just in
Okay.
case.
Right.
Cool.
So,
Awesome.
but
All right. Now, why don't you lead us out of segment 2 here?
So, Dean, what are some of the red flags when you're hiring a contractor?
How do you spot a bad contractor
Yeah.
before it's too
well,
late?
let's start with just communication. If this person doesn't answer their phone or doesn't respond to you in a very timely manner, that's huge. When I went down to Florida, I was actually not even going to do any more contracting. I was going to retire, play on boats and planes.
He's saying that. I have a friend now, Dan.
Yeah.
Hey, Dan, who's in Mexico City. He's like, yeah, I'm going to retire. I'm like, good luck.
Yeah.
You're too motivated.
Yeah, and so I started on a project in my own house, and next thing I know, I did 15 homes in the same neighborhood.
Yeah. And now everyone is looking for Dean. Apparently, he just found out he's
He's on
getting
social media.
social media
Yeah, I don't
posts
do that
saying how
stuff,
great he
so-
is, and to
Right.
use Dean, who's trying to retire.
Yeah.
And if you're looking for a contractor, you can find Dean on our website too. We'll put him up there.
Yes.
Yeah. If you happen to be in South Florida. But
Yeah, he's not coming up here, especially October.
But yeah, when I was doing this, I just automatically responded to phone calls, and people were always shocked that I'd call them back within the same day. Very rarely do I let anything go overnight unless I don't have the answer. And showing up.
avoid you? What?
Showing up. The first gig that I did with my buddy, who's also a GC, we did it together.
Down Delray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Craig and I
Right.
did it, and we showed up on Monday morning at 8:00, and the people were like, "What are you doing here?" We're like, "Did we have the wrong day?" And they're like, "No, but no one ever shows up the day they're going to start."
Yeah.
And I was like,
What?
"Yeah, no, that's not how we work."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
South
if they don't
Florida is
they don't
different.
respond, don't show up, move on. It's just never, and then they got all the excuses in the world. Everybody has a problem, but it takes, everybody has a phone attached to them at this point. So
Right.
to make a phone call to say, "Hey, I can't make it today. I have some
Right.
issue." It happens to all of us. It's not, that you understand, but not communicating that it's unacceptable.
Yeah.
Unless you got wiped out on a car wreck and you cannot actually punch the numbers in your phone,
Right.
there's no excuse, because everybody has these phones attached to them.
And they should be able to communicate with you.
Yeah.
What are some of the other things that
What, like cash deposits? What do they? What happens
that's
if they ask
another
for
one.
a big cash deposit?
When the problem with a deposit is, as a contractor, you're worried about getting paid, and as a homeowner, you're worried about getting screwed.
Right.
So somewhere in there, you got to come up with a balance.
Right.
Now, what is a feasible thing? How big is the budget of the project? Say 10%. Well, we're working on I'm fixing a project right now that these guy came in at his to do this addition on this house was $1.2 million, and he asked for $150,000 deposit. Now he's had this money for a year and a half without a permit.
Nightmare.
Exactly. And I said to the owners, I said,
Who would do that?
he didn't need $150 deposit until he actually had the permit. You don't need any deposit
Right.
other than maybe the permit fees and whatever legwork it takes to get the permit done.
But don't they use a scam like, well, I have to get you in my schedule, and I'll only put you in my schedule if I have a big deposit, right?
But here's the thing, and being on this side of it, you don't know what schedule it is because you're not in charge of getting the permit.
Right.
The permit
Yeah.
is issued by the city that you're working in.
Right.
Now, I have one
so you don't
city.
even know when the work could start.
Right. You
until
don't know
the
when it's
permit's-
going to start.
Right.
This is 2 years later.
Right. That's crazy.
This guy didn't
So
get
what
a
does
permit.
it usually take generally? I know it's different in every city, but to get a permit.
You can't say a general. There's no such thing.
general.
So if a guy says to you, "Oh, I'm going to start the work in 2 weeks," how does he know that?
I would call the city and ask them what's the lead time on permit issuances now.
Okay.
Because you can call
It
your
depends
local
on the
city.
type of permit, though, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean,
it's
if you're
structural, you have to go through different departments.
Right.
You have
No, but I'm
plumbing,
saying
you have
is-
Let's say you're
That's
getting,
another red
if
flag.
if you're getting a fence permit, and that's a very simple thing to get. You can call them and say, "What is the lead time on getting a fence permit nowadays in our XYZ city?" And they'll say, "Oh yeah, it's what usually within if you apply the right." You got to have a licensed contractor. You have this, and this,
Right.
Right.
And usually they want you to have a survey so that you don't put
Right.
it across a line. Well, a survey is going to take almost always between 2 and 4 weeks. That's just how it is. That's generally my experience here and there. So if this guy says he's going to do this in a week or two, well, show me what you're going to do. And they're going to say they need a survey, and that's your responsibility as a homeowner to
Right.
provide the survey. They
Right.
can't do that. So, be realistic, and also, like I said, call the city. Don't be afraid to call them and say, what are the requisites to get this kind of permit? And they'll tell you. And then the contractor should say the same thing. Oh, well, I can't tell you that until I have this, and this. And then when it goes into the city's process, it's going to be X. They said, oh, it usually takes us 2 weeks to process it if we have everything.
Right.
Then you got an idea. Your survey's 2 to 4 weeks, 2 weeks in the city. You're at 6 to 8 weeks. Okay, now we know. If he says he's doing it in 2 weeks, there ain't a permit.
Right.
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 And not everything needs a permit. And you may not always want to get a permit, right?
Right. I mean,
in some
there's-
cases, I'm not trying to be a scofflaw here, but, right, if you're doing some minor job here,
I mean,
you don't
like
want to
roof
overcomplicate
repairs,
it with
window
We're
repairs,
gonna do
door
everything.
repairs,
Right.
deck repairs.
the city wants to document everything, but that's just, they're following this procedure.
Right,
It's
and
overcomplicating
it's just-
in some cases.
It does. It gets overcomplicated
overcomplicated.
because
Right.
And
we're
then
not
they start
reinventing the
throwing
wheel here.
taxes
I'm
at
just
you.
putting what was there.
Right.
And a lot of times I'm afraid to say this, but it's about money. The
Right,
city wants to
exactly.
get their little
They
piece
want
of
their
it.
money, and then they want to tax you
Right.
on your improvements.
Right.
So,
So,
not a big fan of those taxes.
use some discretion on what you're using, what you're doing.
Yeah.
What,
Is-
not to digress, but what kind of, like when you're using a general contractor, say their license, should they be able to show you that?
Well, if now
Great point.
most licenses. Now I know I was licensed here in the city. I was licensed in the county here. Now in Illinois, that was the case years ago when I was here. I had to have a county license when I did work and a city license, but I didn't have to have a city license to do. I didn't have to have a county license to do work in the city here in Chicago, but outside of it, I
Oh.
needed a county license.
Oh,
Now in Florida, they have a state license. So, but what happens there is that in each individual town that you work in, we have to register to
yeah, I
work in
noticed
it.
that when we were down there.
So,
Because you said that
So you
little
don't need a
village-
license, you just got to register your license.
you have to register your license in that city, and then they make sure that you're up to snuff. So all your paperwork is in a conformity to the state requirements. You have to have your insurance, your bond, to this, to this, to this, to this.
So any good general contractor should be able to show you all that.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
if he pulls you a permit, they'll make sure
they'll make sure he
they
has it,
vet
right.
they vet him
Yeah.
because it's their responsibility.
But you
then.
should still ask for it.
Yeah,
right?
you can ask for it, but you're not going to know what you're looking at it anyway. And
Well, it could
even
be
if he,
forged,
even
right?
if it was pulled, let's say his license was pulled, he could still have the paperwork.
Oh,
But
that's
in
true.
the state
interesting.
will know if he's a valid contractor.
Okay.
So when you go,
Are
to-
there lists, like, I mean, through the city
I
of
would
Chicago,
imagine there
or-
is. I don't know offhand, but I
bet
would
there are,
imagine that you
Stephanie.
could
We should look
pull
that.
up.
We'll look that up for you.
Yeah.
To find
Yeah.
that out. What are some of the red flags you've seen with GCs? Right.
Right.
Right. So that was what we were talking about.
So
Communication.
yeah, let me reboot it up. So now, what are some red flags you see with GCs typically?
So as we were talking about, communication is huge.
Yeah.
If they're not communicating with you and letting you and responding to your inquiries, or even making appointments, just move on. It's that right there. They
Yeah,
have a
red
management
flag.
a time management issue, or they have,
Yeah.
which is only going to make you infuriated as it goes along further.
And cost you
Right.
Yeah.
money on top of it.
Also, get as many references as possible. You should be able to say, "Hey, let me talk to 3 of the last people you worked with," and call
Even
them
do a
up.
walkthrough.
Well, then you're getting into people's homes and stuff.
Yeah,
but,
I guess
but if you just call these people and you talk to them, and say, where do they live? What did he do? How did how did it go? How was the budget? How was his time? And how was his contractors? You're going to get a good feel. If like I've spent the last 14 years in Florida and the last 10 developing my subcontractors, and I'm always looking for others.
Yeah,
but
and your guys, I've been there many times. They're dependable. They know if they don't know what they're doing, they call you.
Right,
they ask you
know
questions.
to ask.
Right.
And the other thing is that you want to have them that respond as well. When they stop responding, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to use you any longer because I can't. If you make me crazy, I can only imagine how they're going to be. And this is how we do it my way. That's how it is. I'm right or wrong. It's my way.
Well, when you talk about subcontractors, I know you told this story, but I think it's important because most people think they're general contractor. Oh, they hired these subcontractors. They're great. They're watching over them. And tell us a story about what just happened with the job that you're working on now.
Oh yeah, the GC was absentee from the whole job, never around, and the homeowner, who was just a super nice guy, actually from Chicago, he had one of the contractors that literally wrote a check out of his personal account to himself for $7,000.
To himself.
To himself.
Okay.
And then jewelry was missing, and things were broken, and no one, who's responsible? Well, actually, the GC is responsible. That's what the insurance and the licenses and the bonding is for.
Right.
And you should be able to say, hey, listen. And then they say, oh, well, that wasn't, that was done beforehand. Well, you say, well, that's fine, but we're going to go to court and talk about this.
Yeah.
Right.
If you want to pull that one, good luck, and we'll see what happens in court.
And then the other thing is also, this is what people, goes into when do you get away or get out of it if you get stuck into a bad situation. Cut your losses as soon as you can. Once you see it going bad, just don't worry. You'll find someone else. It's better to cut your losses and move on, and then report them. Right. This is the biggest thing that nobody does is report these contractors that are doing half-assed crap work, because I literally am repairing out of the 10 jobs we probably have going, 4 of them are repairs of other contractors.
And then you just said about this job that happens to be coming up a lot, but that you actually just found another person that was a victim of their bad work.
Dumb luck. My number one guy who works for me, he ran into someone else on a job, and he's just out of dumb luck. He's like, oh yeah, this is the same GC that we had,
which is great news for the customer.
Right. And I said to him, I said, let's get these 2 people together and have them put something. You can't do a class action with 2 people, but they could at least join forces on information and what to go after this guy, because this is why you have these issues we're talking about.
Right.
A good GC shouldn't have bad things. We all have bad jobs. It all goes bad once in a while. But if you're not addressing it and you're not there, that's beyond bad.
Right.
Things go sour. It's happened to me. It's happened to people. But if they're absentee from the job, period.
Right.
Yeah.
It's unacceptable.
Now, another big important point, right, is before you even get to that point, they should have a project scope and a project plan, right?
Well, once you get to what you want to do at your place, you should say, okay, what's it going to cost? Give me an estimate. Right. Give me a scope of work and a time frame.
Right.
So you're going to say, okay, and then you can say, well, how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to take down the wall, then we're going to see what's got to get done. We're going to fix the electric, fix the plumbing. We're going to re-drywall and then paint. Well, okay, great. But I'm simplifying it, of course.
Well, but also people like his customer, Mary, wonderful woman, they don't care. Some people don't care about that, but nonetheless,
But they do want to know. Plan. They usually want to know how long is it going to take.
Yeah,
because you're inconveniencing them. I mean, this woman had this
schedule.
I mean, she has a beautiful house. She bought this amazing $4.4 million house,
right.
And from the outside it looked great. And then the minute she moved in, it was like one nightmare after another, and $250,000 later worth of repairs,
right?
And none of it you would notice,
right?
None of it. Like everything we did, you wouldn't even know. Like it's all
Oh
behind the
no,
walls.
because it's behind the scenes, like that soffit going from the middle of the house or almost the front of the house,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right.
2/3 of the way through outside.
Yeah, well, the cantilever wasn't vapor buried to the
Right.
inside and outside, so it was condensating,
There's a
causing
deck
mold.
sitting out outside of the
And
property.
in Florida, we have a mold problem. It's
Right.
1,000 degrees and 200% humidity every day. And then on top of it, they put a wine cooler in there in the middle of it, and it
all fogging
exacerbated the whole problem even worse. There was water dripping. I'm like, I built a couple of these. We never had this problem. It's raining in here. But these are all things that, and again, then we go back to inspectors.
Right.
That's another thing. Get a good inspector. Spend the extra
Yeah.
money. Get someone who's again with with all.
Although
this-
they've caught that, I mean, the way the guy found it out was pretty unusual. Sometimes he's like we talked about.
there's some things you're never going to catch. I mean, the
right.
guy who did the rehab on that place did it. He cut corners where no one would ever find it. He was good at cutting corners where you couldn't find it.
Well, yeah, some
looked
of
like
these
a great place.
Inspectors, or, contractors are sneaky.
Yeah.
They know what they could get away with.
Right.
Yeah. And so
Good inspector for one thing, but again, with the termite situation, Stephanie had purchased a house that ended up having termites. Well, that's your home inspector's responsibility, and they're bonded also like a contractor, right?
They should
Right.
know these things now.
Right.
It's always argumentative. When did the termites show up? The same
Well, that's
problem
what it
with this
comes down
woman
to, right?
I just talked about with these other issues. She calls me, we had started working there, and it was like she'd lived there like 3 weeks, I think. And she called me, and she goes, "These bugs." And I'm like, "What kind of bugs?" She goes, "I don't know, but there's wings all over the
Oh
floor."
my God, who was that?
That was Mary.
There's Mary again,
Yeah,
same place?
Same place.
Oh
And
my
I said to her, "Don't touch them." I shot over there, and I looked at him. I'm like, "Son of a bitch, those are freaking termites." And she's like, "Oh my God, I'm moving out." And I'm like, no, relax. We have a way to deal with them. But I go, she's there 3-4 weeks in her house, and she's got termites.
Yeah.
And that, I highly doubt they just showed up.
Right.
They should have been spotted.
Well,
and then
Dean
when
tells you the life of a termite too. If you don't know, this was interesting for me to realize when I've had termites. Tell us the life of a termite.
Oh yeah, well that's the people. Well, this is a Florida termite. I'm sure they're the same
story. Really?
Yeah, these are crazy.
Breaking news. I didn't know this was
So
coming.
termites, they swarm in a big ball. You can physically see them in the air,
Really?
and then they go to the next house they want to get in. They find a hole, and then they all go in there. They flying around. They get inside. They shed their wings and start eating.
No.
That's how they get around. They it's like a beehive.
They can grow their wings on demand?
Yep.
Yes, and then they grow their
That's
wings when they're
impressive.
done.
When they're done, they grow and they fly away again.
Wow.
And that's how they.
Metamorphosis.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like a butterfly.
So that
Caterpillar
I
butterfly.
learned about termites when I had termites. Dean told me the life
Now
cycle of a
up here,
termite.
you don't have the underground termites that we do.
Dean's a value-added contractor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got these subterranean termites which actually eat concrete, which is a whole nother. Oh yeah, these guys they're ferocious. Yeah, so those are another one, which because it freezes here, you don't have to worry about. But where I'm at, they don't freeze. So these guys, they'll dig from one house to the next.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
That's
crazy.
exciting.
All right, and we have a nice tool we're going to pull together for you
Yeah.
guys, so you can use the vetting tool, vetting checklist, to help you kind of figure out some of these questions and figure out are you on track with a good contractor,
Right.
and a bad contractor. Oh, how do you find a good contractor? Before we move on,
Well, that's another thing we talked about earlier. That is, use personal references first.
yeah,
Then use the internet. There's
Word
so
of mouth,
much
social
there's
media.
so much social media out there, and and having done this for 40 years, I'll tell you, not every one of my jobs has gone perfect, and I'm sure there's some people that aren't exactly thrilled, but I did as best as I could do. But I've never been sued for any of it, so I must be doing something right. Now, do I like to leave everybody happy? I always want to leave everybody happy, because I don't do any advertising, I don't do any social media, and all of my references are from other people.
no, he's technologically illiterate.
Yeah,
Yes.
I hate computers. I use my phone to phone and
I
make test
had to go to
messages.
Florida to reset his entire computer system.
Yeah, I don't do that stuff. I don't like that stuff.
No, you're good at carpentry.
I can build your house. I can build a car.
electrical, plumbing, all
But
that.
I'm
Right.
not.
Yeah.
Right. He can. Yeah. So Yeah, so we'll get that list together and kind of go through that. And then, the big thing too, I think that people make a huge mistake in rehabbing is the budget.
Right?
Yeah.
Budgeting's critical.
Yeah.
So, if you start out at the wrong place, you're going to end up in the wrong place.
Correct.
I mean, and when it starts getting out of control, again, goes back to don't be afraid to call it, hey, let's stop, let's reevaluate. If you're off, like John went with me when he was down there, and we went to this guy's house.
My jaw was dropped. I'm still blown away.
He
by
called
this.
me through another one of my clients, and he said, "You're the guy." I'm like, "Okay." I get there, and he tells me, and John, that the budget was $1 million. $1
million
$1 million budget.
$1 million. After
million.
they just bought the place for $3
After they just bought it for $3.
Bought it for $3, and apparently he said they spent most of their retirement money.
But what happened was the contractor went over $1.5 million.
Not $1 million to $2.5 million.
So it went to $1 million to $2.5 million budget, and it still was done schlocky. And I'm literally
insane.
there now. We just did the roofs the other day. Brett was there redoing the roofs.
Yeah.
I was on the phone this morning with him. For that kind of money, it should have gold-plated toilets. And it
The
should
deck
be amazing.
was collapsing.
The deck is being worked on.
The deck on the back porch is like
leaking.
overflowing.
Yeah,
they used what was the piping they used?
They used drainage for landscaping in the deck, and so it leaks all over the place. So they're starting next week to rip that out. But it just goes on
and on.
At what
The water pressure.
Oh yeah, that's another one. We have to open a wall for that. But the point is, when you say $1 million and now you're $2.5 million.
Yeah,
so
you
what's
gotta,
the range? There's ranges you should look at, right?
If you're over 10%, 20%, and you see that the stuff is still not right, you need to call it a day. You need to stop and figure something out. Don't let it bleed. Don't let it bleed like this. This guy is. I feel so bad for these people, and I do this all the time because I get the calls. Like I said, I have 4 or 5 of these projects right now where people called me and said, help me fix this.
Yeah.
At $2.5 million, they could have rebuilt the entire house.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Brand new.
Brand new.
It's insane.
You have to know when to say, okay, enough is enough. And
so is a good guideline, like if you're going to rehab a house, like 20%, if you're doing light rehab, but if you're doing a gut rehab, maybe 40%, just in case.
I don't think
you don't know what you're opening.
I think you should never exceed 20% of budget.
Okay.
Anybody unless you open a wall and you find out that the termites had taken over and this whole thing was just held together with stucco, and you're going to have to rebuild it. But even then, at that point, stop. Get the estimate. What's this going to cost to be? What's the edge? What is going to be the extra? What is this? What is this going to cost extra and why?
Right.
And then you can add it to here's the original budget, but this is something we had no idea of.
Right.
That's something you're going to have to deal with. But if you're just every day, the locks came in are 20% more than I'm sorry. You're a contractor. You should know what these things are going to cost you.
Yeah, I mean, if it's
that
not
should
out
be
of
your
scope,
broke down. Yeah.
Right. If it's not out of scope, then that's on them.
Right. They should know this.
You don't have to pay them more.
No.
I mean, now you want to walk a fine line with pissing off the contractor, right?
Right.
But
if they say, okay,
time,
here, this is the one I budgeted, but this one's a little nicer, and do you want to spend an extra couple bucks?
Right.
That's up to you. But again, if your contractors and coming to you and saying we're over budget because of,
right,
that's a sign right there too.
That's why
you need to be directly involved with them. You hire them to do the work, but you gotta monitor this,
right?
Because otherwise it'll get away. And
your project scope, a Gantt chart, which I love, project management chart. Basically, it's a very simple chart with predecessor, successor relationships, budgets associated with it, what the task is. But that's huge. And then from that scope, you do weekly checkups, maybe even
you should have. And if you're doing a major project, don't be afraid to require that you meet with this guy every week.
Yeah, right.
And sometimes there's nothing going on that week. It rained. We have roofing issues in Florida where it's, we're getting rain for a week this time of the year. There's nothing going on. I can't control the rain. So, we're not going to open your roof unless I know we have
Right.
2-3 days.
So be
Right.
So, be realistic.
Right.
But
Right.
again, like John was saying, a Gantt chart or a flow chart, it shows, you have to do the plumbing and electric before you do the drywall and the paint.
Right,
You know,
obviously.
don't tell me you're going to start drywalling and you haven't done all the stuff in the walls yet.
Right.
So
and or inspections, right?
yeah, and or having
Stuff has to be
inspections.
inspected before
Right.
you drywall it up.
Right. Which goes to what we were talking about before and having inspections. If you're going to do work outside of the scope of a permit without a city inspector,
Right.
and you want to, let's say you're doing something and they're doing light electric or light plumbing, and it's not unordinary to do this. We do it all the time because sometimes the process of getting the permit is going to take longer than the job, many times. You can call building inspectors to come and inspect the work that these people have done, and they will give you their professional advice on that. Now, they're not acting as a certification of any sort, but if you don't know someone else who can look at it and go, that was done right, that's
right.
done nice. Mary Beth's house, which you've been to,
Right.
they hired. Now, I've been taking care of this woman's house for a long time. Her crazy daughter came in and decided she was going to help and redo the panel, and she had this idiot electrician do the panel. And when we opened it up, I looked at it and I said, I would be embarrassed to say that I did this work.
Yeah.
And Steve was like, who did this? And we're like, this is like,
Never use that person.
no, I was like, there was a number of things he did, and I was like, this is unacceptable. This is not what someone should be doing.
Right.
I mean, this is not what quality work looks like, especially when you spend, these are all people that pay top dollar here.
Right.
Right.
This is not, some fly-by-night guys. This is a licensed guy who did a crappy-ass job.
Well, I want to bring that up, though. That's a great point I wanted to emphasize, because we had a couple of situations when we were down there. And there's, really wealthy people, at least the ones we've seen in a couple of these projects. They're like, oh, yeah, what's the scope of the project? Here's what I want to get done. And then one guy flew off to Canada, I remember. And he was writing checks.
Yeah, that was.
If I remember correctly.
That was the penthouse at Boca.
Right.
He's. I don't know how much they spent, but this is a 12
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh, it's $12.5 million condo.
Yeah.
And the work there was so subpar for.
And he hadn't even really done the work, right?
Oh, it was atrocious.
Didn't you say the floorboards were like duct tape, or not the trim?
He used the contractor used tape, gaffer's tape, for baseboards. Literally taped it on the wall and called it a baseboard.
Because, and this is what I'm trying to get to.
Right.
It's your project. Be there.
Be there.
Yeah.
Look at it. Inspect
At least have
it.
something. At least spend some time at
Sometime.
it. Or you want to hire someone like
Right.
me to be a owner's rep.
Right.
I do this all the time for
Right.
people now.
Exactly.
I said, I don't want to do your work. I'm trying to downsize, not upsize. So if you want me to come and consult for you, I will be happy to do that. I have years and years of experience. Plus, I have 3 other buddies that do the same thing.
Right.
And between the 3 of us, we have over 100 years of experience. So, and we all talk. We always talk. All of us guys.
Right.
You've met Craig. And it's to be. What is that old adage? A penny wise and a dollar foolish.
Right.
If you don't know, hire someone like me that you find the same way.
Yeah.
Find someone who's referable and say, okay, would you look at this for me because I'm in Canada.
Right.
Right.
Well,
That's
or
great.
do it monthly for me, right? If I'm in Canada, because he's a multimillionaire.
Right. But I'm just saying, but get somebody who can represent you as an owner's rep. It's an actual
advocate, right?
Yeah,
you need
there's
an advocate on site at the location.
there's an actual deal as an
Right.
owner rep.
You think the GC, but you have to even have an advocate for the GC to make sure the GC is doing their work right.
Right.
Exactly.
But what I also love is the fact that you said, because I'd never thought about this, you can hire home inspectors to just do smaller inspections, inspect this guy's plumbing work. 'Cause
Right.
plumbing can be a nightmare. Because, I learned this after working with Dean for a while. If you don't vent, you ruin the whole plumbing. If it's not vented right, you
you're not-
have air coming in.
People
and-
don't understand. It's not
No,
just
it's-
going downhill. It got to go uphill
It
too.
has to
and
go-
There's a whole. I mean, we can go into a whole thing
Yeah,
about
yeah.
plumbing and electric, but if you don't know what you're looking at,
No.
it'll work half-assed until you really start to use it.
Yeah.
So,
So make sure have somebody look at before they close the wall.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Look at the electrical if you're worried about them. Anyway, just good pro tips.
Exactly. And really make sure that they're getting ready in the materials, the labor, the timeline, any, penalties, things like that, and make sure that that's all in writing, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Change orders.
Get change orders. Have your original contract, and use that as your base. And if it has to make changes, we all have to make changes.
Right.
But write it all down. Don't just do that. Have an email. Have some kind of paper chase that says something, because if it all goes sour, one, you have a reference for it for the guy who has to fix it, and two, you have a reference if you have to go any legal matters.
Right.
And also the other thing that we didn't talk about before, don't be afraid to take pictures of everything that people do.
Always.
Because
take pictures and video. It's great.
And just put them someplace and put them in your hard drive, store them, whatever you do. Because I have a whole phone full of stuff, and I periodically go through and erase it years later. But I can't tell you how many times someone says, "Oh, I want to do this. Can I do that?" I'm like, "Hold on a second. Let me look back at my photos, what we put in that wall."
Well, now you mention it, I have a problem with my building, which Dean helped me build back in 1998. I think I have photographs I could go look of the crawl space.
Yeah. So
I took photos of the whole thing.
Yeah, because I would be like, a photo is worth 1,000 words, because I can't remember everything. You can't remember it.
No.
And especially when you do 100
And you don't
jobs.
have to tear open the floor or the wall to get back in there.
And a lot of times people are like, "Oh, can we do this? Can we do that?" And I'm like, "Let me look at my photos."
And plumbing and stuff like that, also electrical. If you have that work done, getting it documented in the event that you start having problems elsewhere, well, let's look at it. Oh, it's not vented properly. That could be why. Now we could cut it in here.
Yeah.
So that's good to come into your job and take photos as it's going along, because that's
and
I think it also keeps the contractor honest, right?
As a homeowner, do it. Because John was just talking about this plumbing issue with this one people with the $2 million expense. They have a wonderful master shower that has pressure that you can't even fill a glass of water.
No.
And they have
like 5 shower heads.
Yeah, they have all this stuff.
10 shower heads, no?
And it doesn't work for anything.
Probably $10,000 in shower heads.
Oh, at least that system is like 10 grand.
It's like dribbling.
Yeah, it dribbles.
And so when you have that and you bring that up to your general contractor, what is his response?
Well, he should. This guy obviously has walked away, but I asked them, I said, so the back wall of that plumbing, I said, do you have a picture of this? Because it'll save us a lot of time tearing open walls if I can see what the plumbing looks like. And my plumber, and Joe and I were like, if you have a picture of this, we could solve a lot of problems right here.
Right.
No pictures. So we're going to end up tearing open this wall.
Right.
And so they're spending how much to redo that shower then?
We won't know until I open up the walls. And that goes into those jobs.
That's a really good tip, though, to make sure that when you're doing any kind of rehab, no matter how small, how big.
Don't be afraid to take your own pictures. Take
your own pictures. You can store them in iCloud.
Also, one of the challenges I always have is scoping the price. And I was like, well, how do I know? We have average prices in Chicago. It's $200 a square foot, but there's a resource available.
Yeah.
Right.
You said from the National Association of Home Builders.
Yes. They have a standard. They have a standard for everything. How much bricks should cost per square foot? How much drywall should cost per square foot?
Install per square foot?
It'll give you the cost of materials, the cost of labor. Now, of course, it varies all over the nation, and it's regional, and what it costs in Florida will be different than here, and variable. And, Oklahoma, in the middle of Oklahoma is going to be different also. But what it does, though, is it'll give you a standard. And if you see something that's way out of whack, something's wrong. Or the other way where it's too little. I've had, this guy say, "Oh, this guy said he can do it for this." I'm like, the materials are going to cost that. What, they're going to steal them and put them in for free? I go, I know what it costs. You're not, the drywall costs you $12 a sheet, and he's going to put them all up for free because you're telling me the amount of square footage here is what they're going to pay for materials.
Right.
Oh, they get them cheaper. I get it cheaper.
We were talking about that.
I get it cheaper. You're not
Spider
getting
Monkey.
it. Yeah, you're not getting it for free. All right, you don't get half off on anything. That's not happening.
So when they say that to you, and they're like, oh, I'll get it for cheap, and it sounds like a great deal, what usually ends up happening?
Yeah, it never works out.
Never.
Don't do it. Don't. Do
And
it.
they end up charging you
I mean,
on the
if they
back
say
end
they
then.
get a 10% discount,
Or you end up
that's
with a job
possible.
not
I
done.
get at some of my contractors, I get up to 20%, but I do millions of dollars worth of work with these guys. We do volume. If you're this guy in a beat up pickup truck and he's telling you he's going to get 20% off, I'm not going to buy it. Okay, and plus, you usually, if you're going to get the discount, you have to buy. Craig did the last job. It was 1,200 sheets of drywall. We get a discount on 12, and it's delivered.
Yeah.
You're going to get a discount, but not for a little job or something like that.
Also, the discount kind of goes to you guys as payment, right?
Right.
It's part of your professionalism.
So we have
you benefit from it.
They want us to do work with them,
which is fine, right? They should,
Right.
So they want to keep us customers,
right?
Yeah.
And the good people that want to hire good contractors, have to understand you're making money here and there. Now, what about? We're just talking about tile deliveries and trusses and stuff like that. How about when things are delivered to the site with a normally well-run project, waivers, anything like that?
That's another
important?
thing, paperwork. If you have a contractor and he has a payment due, you decided we're going to pay you on X amount of parts to whatever is agreed upon. When he gives you his bill and you're going to pay him, you should make sure that you get waivers for any materials that are been given to your site. So, and materials can be delivered or brought by truck. So if he brings them by his truck, but it has your address on it, you're still responsible for the payment for that product, whether he paid for it or not.
Right.
So, and if it's delivered, anything's delivered to your site, it comes to your address, you're still responsible. They're not going to go after the contractor. They're going to go after the homeowner.
Well, they're just going to, what's the thing they do?
They put a lien on you. So that's why a lien waiver says the GC, let's say you had a load of drywall delivered, and you say, okay, he wants to get paid for this part of the project. He wants all this paid for, and he just had all the drywall. Okay, well, I want a waiver for all the drywall that was just delivered saying that it's paid for, because otherwise that could be liened against your project
Right.
and your house.
And by the way, all of this should be handled in regular communications with your contractor.
Right.
Yeah.
If they're trying to get a draw
exactly.
payment, okay, where are the waivers for the work that was
Where's
done
the
the past
waivers for
couple
the
weeks?
work and materials done?
Right.
And and also let's schedule this. Don't have him say to you that this is not. It's his responsibility to provide this to you a week in advance, so that you can get all these papers and you can make sure they're all in order. I mean, you had nothing wrong with calling the drywall supplier and said, "Did he pay you? I have a waiver here." They're like, and the waiver's supposed to be notarized.
That's a good one.
And you say,
well,
"Oh
it's
yeah,
fraud
I got
on the
it."
contractor, but
I have
nonetheless, you'll still
a
be
$30,000 draw here for you. Did you get paid? Oh yeah, we got paid. We're all good.
Yeah.
But the guys who come to me on a Friday or a Thursday and say, "Can I get a draw tomorrow?" On Friday, I'm like, "No, it doesn't work that way.
Well, they should know
Give me
that, right?
We're going to do this over a week's period, and we're going to go from point A to point B. So you were you got paid at point C, and now we're at point D. Well, everything in that middle has to be accounted for with either waivers or however we're going to go about it.
Right.
But don't tell me that you want to get paid tomorrow. And
that's
that's
probably
another bad sign.
Well,
If the guy
it's a sign of a bad contractor here.
he can't manage his money,
right. Or they're not managing their own life well, right?
Right. You can't. No, I was building here in Chicago for years, and I had to go to the bank to get my waivers. Get my draws.
Oh yeah.
And you had to you submitted them, and then got paid. A week later. So it wasn't. That's how you should treat them. Also, it's not unheard of, and if he can't do that, that's a bad sign.
Right.
So that goes to your. I think we were talking earlier about the flow of the job, the chart, the flow. What happened this week affects
Gantt
next
chart,
week,
workflow,
and making sure that all ties back.
It should all pull that together. Again,
and
it depends on the scope of the project.
Right, and
do
don't get me wrong. Things happen, like we're waiting for rain. Weather conditions. The things slow down because of something that you can't control. Materials didn't show up; it got damaged.
Right.
That it happens, but then you got to change your flow chart and your Gantt chart to account for that. And, he doesn't get paid because he met that point. He gets paid for meeting that point with the material.
It's
with the
not
job
your responsibility
site
if the
done.
weather was raining or
exactly.
whatever. If the work is still not done,
You don't
and
get
the
paid
bank
till the
isn't
work-
handing you out a check.
Right.
If it were a bank were involved, they absolutely would not give you the draw because it rained.
No,
right.
Right.
If the work isn't done, you're not getting paid.
Yeah, work has to be completed.
So we're going to provide you a scope of work template to kind of help you get started with this with the contractor, and you'll be able to get that on the website.
Yep.
And then we also talked about kind of hidden math of investing. And so this kind of ties back into that previous episode about, budget padding, isn't a waste. Make sure you're protecting yourself, having a little wiggle room for a project.
Yeah.
But then hold everyone accountable.
For sure.
So, all right, now contractors, timing, and permits. So this is a fun one. This is where it gets complicated. You're working with a lot of stuff here. You have a rule of thumb around, never letting them start working without a signed contract. You want a contract. You want to keep these things documented properly, like you said, so you have a paper trail. And your rule, you said, basically is use common sense.
Yeah,
if you're going to do permitting
and don't be afraid to look around, and the social media stuff is crazy. I mean, I use it when I very limited because I don't do it, but it's amazing what you can find to help you and to use.
You had to have a few things scrubbed, didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So I mean, but you have to be realistic and use as much information as you can to make an educated decision.
Right.
And I always ask. Like I said, I have buddies that do the same thing in Florida, and Craig and I we're working on one, and he's like, the pool guy came in at $80,000. I'm like, how can that be? He built one for us for $60,000. A year ago. And, when we go back and he's like, well, this, oh yeah, you're right. Next thing you know, it's back down to 64
No
grand.
way.
Oh yeah. And like, well,
yeah, they'll swindle you.
Don't be afraid to question it. You have to. I mean, if it seems excessive, how can that be? Tell me what's different about this.
Right.
Right.
And where's your scope change? Where's your project scope change? Where's your change order?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, well, I mean, like that one contractor, $2.5 million from $1 million.
Yeah.
I mean, how did
Those
that
people
happen?
And they didn't
these-
listen to the show. I can tell you that.
He wasn't listening to the show.
Yeah.
And
And
I
they're
also
so
think-
nice. The people
They
are
are
so
so
nice.
nice.
And it
it's just
also
you feel
goes
terrible.
to the gut, right?
do too.
Like,
Yeah,
Oh,
if you got a bad feeling, just not worth it. There's so many guys
Yeah.
out there doing this stuff.
Right.
Just-
I think there's some professional scammers out there, though.
Oh, yeah. Well, then
they're
one-
really good at it.
So another example was this friend of mine. She manages properties for these people, and they were doing a rehab on a 2-bed, 2-bath condo, and the guy gave $10 grand to start the job, and he proceeded in the first day to hit a water pipe in a 4-story building.
Oh, I remember that happening to us at one time.
Yeah, and then he installed. And this is a commercial space, so in
That's-
Florida you can't use any kind of wood. You have to use pressure treated wood or metal studs. And he put in all this white lumber, which is just clear pine. You can't use that. So we get there, and it was like in his first week he did all this damage, and then I'm like.
And he probably asked to be paid for the repairs.
He asked. Oh yeah, he asked for more money after 1 week, and he's like, and I go in there and I'm like, all this has to come out because none of this is going to pass inspection. And they're like, what do you mean? I go, well, this is commercial space. These are the parameters. And of course, the guy who gave him the money is now like, well, how can we? I go, it got to come out. There ain't no fixing it. This all start over.
Fixing. It's undoing.
Yeah,
which
so-
cost you.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, again, 10 grand. Just be careful how you dole out money. It's
Well, and watch your work. Again,
say,
I think we're
okay,
getting-
give me an invoice for the materials that you have. But again, this guy didn't know what was the right. He didn't know what he was doing.
Right.
You can't put that materials in where he was doing this. So who knows? I mean, I know that's what I have to do.
Right.
But this
Right.
guy obviously didn't know, but he was working on little crappy houses or something. And you get into a 5-story multi-unit building, and there's a different set of rules.
Oh yeah,
Exactly.
especially there.
Yeah.
And then what
Exactly.
about inspections? I mean,
Oh yeah, that's another thing. I mean, I had 14 inspections, and once the plumbing was hit, shit hit the fan. the building management was involved.
Called the city.
Everybody
I'm sure they
called
called
the city, and next thing you know, the whole permit process had to start from point A, and then we had 14 inspections just to get to drywall.
Yeah, because now they don't trust you.
Now,
You made a bad
everybody's like
mistake.
double checking, and it's part of the game. You go.
Well, it's
there,
a high rise. You make a mistake in a high rise.
Well, that's what he did on
It
the
goes
fourth
down
floor.
4 floors,
Yeah.
or it could be worse even at the higher buildings.
Yeah.
So you can understand their reluctance,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah, it happens. But again, once you have the inspection set up, it's a pain in the ass to do, and it costs time. Just but you get it done, and then once the city signed off on it, and it was done properly. Again, just be careful how you dole out money, and don't be afraid to. All these codes and things are online. I mean, when I'm not sure, I look it up. Every city has a little differences, and I'm not sure. And actually, there's a website I'll give to you guys that actually is nationwide that you can look up everybody's stuff.
Okay, we'll put that on the
codes.
Codes, building codes, really.
Building
Okay.
codes and all that stuff.
We'll put that on the website.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I have it somewhere, but that one is helpful too.
Well, that's great because we talked about this stuff in episode 8, Stephanie, about navigating city approvals.
Right.
And permits are part of the process in some of these cases, especially in a multifamily dwelling, especially a high-rise one where we are in the metropolitan city. But skipping them, you risk liens, lawsuits, and even harming people.
Yeah.
So you want to obviously do it right when you need to. So all right.
We're going to end with the question and answer session.
Well, we have picking a partner for rehab and
We
or
did
development.
We're just not following your schedule. No one likes it. Dean goes off on the rails.
Well, I do go
He's
on
already
tangent.
done that. He's got to go to the dentist. You're stepping on his toes. Now I have to cut you off.
Okay, go.
Let's go to question
So,
and answer.
John has a rigid schedule, if you guys haven't noticed, and
Yeah,
sometimes I
logic's my
follow
flaw,
it.
my greatest
and
flaw.
sometimes, you're just like.
All right, let's
this
go,
shit.
Steph. Stop. Yeah.
Okay.
So we did horror story. So
what's some of the biggest? We talked about red flags.
Well,
a little bit.
not the biggest.
Well, we talked about picking the right one is again goes to if you have bad communication from get go.
What's the two words that you don't want to hear? Trust me.
Oh, trust me. Yeah, no, that's not a good one. I've done this for so long that I can't tell you how many people have come to me and said, I don't know what happened. And it's a disaster. And it goes back to just, don't assume because you have a contractor that they're going to solve all your problems.
Right.
Your part of your job is to make sure that they do solve those problems.
Right.
And you have to contribute. I mean, people love to just say, "Oh, I paid him to do it." Yeah, you did, but just check on him. And if you're not going to do it, it goes back to what we said. Get a owner's rep who knows what the hell they're looking at. Don't get an owner's rep who does beekeeping and he's going to inspect your project.
Right.
Get a guy who knows what he's doing.
I'll just chime in on this because my son Brett keeps telling me. I try to get him to do work around the house. I'm like, let's build these stairs together. You saw my stairs are not complete. I'll hire somebody to do that. Okay, great. Now, how do you know if they're doing their job? If you've never even done a little bit of work, now I know a lot of us are beyond this, but doing a little bit of work, paying a little bit of attention gives you at least some reference points so that you can check other people's work.
Exactly.
Right? You don't want an inspector hovering around all the time because you know nothing. And if you're a little homeowner buying a rehab here and there, you have to know some things about plumbing, right? YouTube videos are a great way to go.
And again, the stuff on YouTube is amazing.
Yeah.
And there's some really good ones that explain why it is the way it is.
Right.
But like you said, your son, oh yeah, I'll just hire someone. Well, that's great, but how do you know they're doing it right? That's what those $1 million.
That's what I was gonna say. The $1.5 million overrun.
Right.
They just had no idea.
And look what's happened. Now here I am. It's going to cost them another couple $100,000 to fix the stuff that's broke.
Right.
And I think that goes back to what you said about video documenting. If you're doing that once a week and you see the same thing going on, that is
Yeah,
a
it's an
really
indicator.
moment
Red
where you
light.
go,
Yeah,
I'm going to
what's wrong?
stop for a minute and take a breather here because this
Or if
doesn't
you'd
seem
seen
like-
that 40-foot water pipe going on their second floor
right.
with no pump, no nothing, it
Yeah.
connected all of their sinks and toilets
Right.
and showers.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's not strapped down, so
And
every
it's
time
not
you
strapped down, so it
every time you
bangs.
turn off the water,
Bangs.
the thing bangs the whole house.
Could you imagine? And then
No.
it dribbles out
$5
of your...
million house, and every time you turn
Oh
the
my
water
God, it's
on and
just
off, it goes
unbelievable.
bang.
And then, is it normal to have a job take twice as long, or does that go back to what you said about stuff happens with the windows
Yeah, I
being
mean,
broken?
be realistic. If your contractor is not showing up on days that it should be getting work done, there's a problem.
Right.
If you have rain coming for a week and you have a roof that needs to be done, wait the week. The roof,
Right.
the damage you get done trying to squeeze in between raindrops, not worth it.
Right.
Not worth it.
Okay.
Okay, we got rain for a week. Next week's going to be beautiful. We're waiting a week. Trust me, that's going to be way better than fixing the inside of your house.
But if you're
Right.
doing a rehab, that's part of the trick is, people buy these...
Pivot.
If you're not doing a gut rehab and you think your budget's going to be in one place, it could get significantly higher because you don't know what plumbing...
Right.
You
I
don't
mean,
know
there's-
what electrical has been
it
done.
But it goes back to, they open up that wall, they find something wrong.
Immediately tell you.
Immediately have them tell you,
Right.
explain to you why it's going to be this, and then have a new scope of work for that part of the project.
Right.
Right, so
We
you
have to
pivot.
redo this plumbing. We have to bust open the concrete and fix this. Okay, that's great. What is that part of it going to cost now
Right.
on top of what we already have budgeted?
Exactly.
So poor vetting, poor planning equals poor results.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
And don't, like we said, we talked about in our previous episodes about buying a multifamily, which is great, but also understand the budget, understand what you can do, understand what you have to do.
Right.
Right.
You could do things at a time. You don't have to do the entire
One at a
apartment.
time, yeah.
Maybe you just do the bathroom instead of
Right.
doing
Right.
everything.
Well, like
So-
when I did my house that I just have now, we knocked it all out. I was in budget, and then I did the landscaping later, and I would never have guessed I would spend 20 grand on landscaping.
Oh, yeah. In Florida, it's like a
I
gorilla
know,
zone.
but that's a huge.
you don't even have grass.
I know. It was just getting all the other stuff out.
Oh, tearing that
They
stuff
tearing
out.
up all that
It's
stuff.
Oh, yeah. You had a lot in the
And
backyard.
then the pavers in the back, which I didn't think were going to be. It all added up to 20 grand, and I'm like, and here, this is what I do, but I'm like, I didn't know taking out the jungle was going to cost 20
Right.
grand.
Right.
It was $8,000 to cut down the trees and get rid of it all.
That's insane.
Just to get rid of it. I mean, you should have seen the pile that they pulled out of there. And these are guys that do it at my cost. And I was like, holy crap, this is
$8,000.
Yeah.
Right.
$8,000.
So, I mean, like you said, if you buy a multifamily and it's got a jungle in the backyard, that could be, think about it. All the little things that
because I was focused on the house itself. I was within
Right.
4%.
Well, you
of
never
my
focus,
budget.
and you never focus on the yard work or
No,
anything. Usually,
I mean,
but this is your own.
coming from
this
here,
is your own home.
We
Right.
did that $9 million project, and we built that whole building, and the budget for the landscaping was $1,200.
because there's no space.
There was no
Right,
space.
there's no space,
There
and
was
definitely no-
two little planters in the front, and that was it. So
no
Right.
palm trees to
no
worry about.
coconut trees.
no coconut trees.
No
So
avocados.
that's
no.
always, and another thing, just talking about that with, as we leave, if you have a big tree in your backyard and you're buying a property, those roots go somewhere, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Exactly. Depending on the type of tree,
Right.
that could tell you this thing has long roots, or
Right.
probably, or like a lot of these trees. It's amazing to me. Some of these trees are 40, 50 feet high, and I think you told me you're like, well, that's a weed. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, those are weeds.
Those are weed
that grew
trees.
into 40-foot trees,
Right.
And they're
And they
they're
have
easy
no-
to tear out though, right?
Yeah,
they have
that's
no
the
root
ones
system.
I had to tear out in the
Right.
backyard. All of
Oh,
them
really?
are all weeds, except for the one oak tree I kept. All the rest of them are all
Right.
junk. And
Right.
like I said, here I am doing this, and I completely missed the ball on the landscaping.
Right.
The front, now I got the front done, and the back is all plastic grass, and I didn't even think about it.
Which is awesome. And that's not awesome for you, but that just leads to why we're doing this, right?
Right, exactly.
Because we want to thank Dean for his time.
Well, and let's do the takeaways. So
No, we're not. We're
first
not.
of all,
He's done. He's going to
know
get his
your
teeth done.
know what your DIY limits are. Make sure you know what you could get into and what you shouldn't. Vet your contractor like you'd vet your business partner. Make sure they're doing the right work. They know what work they're going to do.
It is your
don't
business.
call Dean for landscaping. I think we've established that.
Right. No, but
don't be afraid to ask questions. That's the biggest thing.
What did Dad say? What's the worst question? The one you didn't ask?
The one you didn't ask,
Yeah. No question stupid, the only one you didn't ask. And some people think, oh my God, this guy's a professional. I follow my landscaper around now, and I'm like, listen, is that a weed or is that a flower?
Yeah.
That's a flower. Okay, so I can make a mental note too, so I don't have to call him and do it next time. Now I know what the weed and flower difference is.
Right.
So, it goes back to what you said. Like, you have to be on top of the people you have working for you.
Yeah.
You have to have a good relationship.
Can't assume.
And don't assume anything.
There's very few guys like myself or Craig and a few others that I've been in the business with. And I told you guys this saying, do it right, sleep good at night. And,
that's right.
And that, if you have any kind of shoddy stuff going on, like this guy with the plumbing and the ceiling that's leaking, this drain pipe, I'm like, how does this guy sleep at night? Because
you should be able to look in that person's eyes and know you don't want to work with them, right?
Right.
They're the kind of person,
exactly.
character-wise.
If you think it's sketchy, it probably is
sketchy. And if you think it's way too cheap, like in your gut, you're doing this, we're going to give you all these tools, and this guy's coming in, like Dean said, and it's at cost. He's not even bought the drywall yet, and he's saying
he can do it for the cost.
Right.
So you're going to have to look at things, and it's okay to part ways with people.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the biggest people
are
like, oh my God, I'm in this, I can't get out. No, you can.
Yeah.
You can fire people at any
time. Matter of fact, goes
Right.
back to the contract. Make sure there's an out on it.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so top 3 things to take away. Know your DIY limits.
Yes.
Get a contractor when you need it. Have inspections. Vet every contractor like a business partner. And then get everything in writing.
Yeah.
Plan for delays. Plan for scope creep. Have a time schedule. And have a budget.
Yeah, and like I
And
just
an
said,
out
and a
contract.
way out.
And an out contract,
An out
right?
contract.
So
if you're
don't
not happy,
achieve-
they're not happy.
Cut it
Hey,
loose.
listen, we're gonna call it a day. Thanks for your time. But this is
So going
the way
back
I
to
want it
that
to go.
out contract, if things are and we'll end with this, like if things are bad, right, and you have this out contract and you have to bring someone else out to fix it, do you give that person the opportunity to come back and fix it correctly? Or
no,
do you just...
once they've screwed up, get away from them.
Okay.
Because it's nothing. They're going to do it even worse because now it's costing them.
Now
Right,
they're
because it's
pissed.
coming out of their pocket. No,
It's coming out
it's
of pocket.
costing them money.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it. They may be upset
So
too,
just
but
cut your losses.
Yeah.
Get the new person to fix it, and move on. That's what I'm doing now. Like I said, I have all these projects I'm fixing.
Right.
So
So
all right,
what's
so
on
get
your
our
agenda?
vetting checklist, get our scope template, and then try our vetting tool for when you're finding a contractor.
Right.
So our call to action is, use these tools, suggest topics for future reference for us, and let us know what you're interested in. And all these stories we're trying to tie back to previous episodes
So we can
and
help
future
you.
episodes, so we can continue helping show you how to do these projects right.
And Dean, what's on your
Dean, thank
agenda
you so
for
much
the
for your time.
for the summer?
up to the farm and working like a slave.
On your pickup truck?
That one's done. I bought another one.
Oh Jesus.
Did you really?
Yeah, I bought a convertible.
So we
I'm building
Dean
another
built a house with my dad up in, we all did. We all participated in Door County. And Dean doesn't like Florida in the summer.
No, it's a little warm.
It's a little warm. So he jets up to the farm. He puts on his overalls.
And I got in my trees.
And he has
His
his
black walnut
I
trees.
trees.
got
Right.
my walnut trees and my
Are they
Christmas
black walnut?
trees.
Or just
Walnut trees. He goes up and he contemplates his thoughts, as my dad always said.
Yeah, and go for
Yeah.
long walks with
I'll
the
be
dog.
joining them.
Right.
With Grizzly and
he
Zeus.
takes a break from the Russians.
What
Not so much of a break.
Actually, they're all invading. They're all vying for time.
And then he has John do an Airbnb contract for him so he could keep the rotation for who's coming to visit, right?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Got to keep the girls rotating in.
Yeah,
Right.
He's my schedule keeper.
He's a schedule keeper because my
don't
brother
do
doesn't know
internet.
how to do anything on a computer. So we just want to thank Dean for his time.
Yeah,
Not a problem.
Thank you.
We give him a hard time all the time, but he really has a lot of good information, and I hope it helps everyone.
Yeah, I hope it helps people because, I hate being the bearer of bad news. I always tell everybody, I'm like, I'm like the worst person because all I bring to you is bad news. I'm like, but we can fix it, you know?
That's the good part about it.
Yeah,
Right.
But
It can be fixed, but again, we can't emphasize this enough, and I think this is why John and I wanted to catch Dean on his way through town, is that it is so important, this part. Don't watch HGTV and think you can do something.
Oh, yeah. Those shows where they're like, oh, yeah, we did the whole thing in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's edited over 6
Yeah,
months.
they probably ordered everything and got their whole project scope, had it sitting in a warehouse waiting for the
Right.
show to
Never
start.
happens.
Right.
So just make sure, reach out to us. We can also pull a list together of good contractors in the city.
Yeah,
we'll
we're
put
going
it
to
on
try
the
and figure
website.
that out. We're going to look for
Yeah.
see if it exists.
And
I'm going
then,
to get the National Home Builders Association on our website too.
Right.
That's a great tool. And our other tools. And then again, thank you for listening. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to the next episode.
And we'll see you again soon.
Yeah. Cheers.
Good luck.